Hello again, everybody. This is the part four that I was talking about, that spiritual darkness, and we have to go back to 1998. Was when I hit probably the darkest moment in my whole life. That would have been 3.5 years, around 3.5 years after that big massive conversion. and and those initial 3.5 years were like, they were just so up there and so high in the spirit, that there probably had to be a come down, and that's what it was. And as it says in the last video, I'd been involved in those 3.5 years from scripture groups, Life in the Spirit seminars in my own house, prayer groups, Legion of Mary, Youth 2000, Siloam, which became the John the Baptist community, and all the evangelization courses from there, and and then going to retreats, and going and doing Youth 2000 retreats over the country. So it was probably inevitable that would come to some sort of halt, and at least to let you know where you were, that you're only a human being. And I think that's what happened. That I came to a point where I had to realize that I was only human. But in that humanity that we all have, we sort of need to learn at times that it's not us. It's really, all the good that we're doing is really not about us. It's not us. It's not us behind it. It's God's Spirit behind everything we do, and the good. And that's why we should never really judge people, because we don't know, the graces that God has for them maybe later in life. And we don't know that certain falls and certain things that happen to people can be a great catalyst to their change, and they become better people for this, better than us maybe. And this is why God works in mysterious ways, and He allows these darknesses to envelop us. And I was fortunate enough to have read the lives of the saints, many saints, and I saw that many of them went through these these same faith tests. Really, they were, and they would come about through something that we can't explain, something where faith has been tested to a point where we there's no more knowledge, or there's no more. It needs to go deeper. The faith needs to go deeper, where there comes to a point where we can't explain things, but yet we need to God's Spirit there and light there, and God allows these things to let you know that the darkness will never overcome the light. And I think that's very, very important. That has been very important to me, and it is what I have concluded out of all those 25 years. The darkness will never overcome the light. From beginning of John's Gospel, and in the beginning was the Word. And this is for anyone out there who has went through depression or goes through dark bouts, and it's a thing that people are afraid to talk about, especially men. Men are afraid to talk about things like that unless they can talk to people who have experienced something similar, and therefore sometimes you don't even need to talk, because the person that has experienced that, really there's a sense in just being with them. There's a sense there that person understands the one going through that deep depression or whatever it is, and they see in the other person someone that they can trust. and someone who knows where they're coming from. Whereas others is the usual, snap out of it sort of thing, which is absolute wrong thing to say. But thanks be to God, there's a lot more good people out there today are very understanding now of things like that. And that's where I would be. I that passage that I spoke about in the last video, that passage of 2 Corinthians 1 verse 2 to 12 was an absolute and utter divine message to me. Divine in the sense that it was a something that nourished me and something that it was a need for me. It was something I could chew on for the rest of my life and gave me a great sense of purpose and filled me with knowledge and understanding that I could never get anywhere else. That no one else could speak to me on that level or get that deep. I remember talking to my mother, who was always great. Mother was always there. And I remember her saying to me at times, it says, "Martin, son, I wish I had, I wish I understood, some of the things that you've went through, so as it could be, so as I could speak to you and really be able to help you in the best ways for you." But she was just there. That was just being there was good. Mother never ever. She was, the darkest times I went through, she was the one that was there. And that's, mothers are just, that sense that you need them. And whether they can explain things to you or not, or what you're going through, I think the greatest thing about the mothers is that they take on your pain. And that's what Christ does, and that's what I learned. That's why mothers are so Christ-like, that they take on the pain of their dear ones, their family. And that's what she did at that time. She took on a lot of the darkness and the confusion and all the things that I had went through in 1998. And that came about through a certain discussion I had with Canon Malloy at the time, my great friend, and we were chatting about apostles and the gospel, and we had been talking about the Passion Week and things like that. And I had been away. I'd done an evangelization course with Father John Murray with the Siloam community at that time. It was the only time I'd ever come into Ireland, never come back again. It was called the Moses course. And we I think it was Maynooth or somewhere, one of the seminary places. It was Maynooth or somewhere, one of the other one. And we went there to do this, and it was absolutely outstanding. And I remember getting the sense of Peter and James and John and all the good people from the gospel. Moses. And I remember getting an identification with each and every one of them. And the identification came through the Spirit. So I realised that it was the Spirit within me. It was the same Spirit that was within these men. So it was God within these men who made them who they were. And I was able to identify with them. And, it then turned from that to, I went through this great sense of being, like anyone would be, we would be proud to be St. Peter. Anybody would be proud to be, you're a St. Peter type character, or John, the beloved disciple, or James, the closest ones to the Lord. And to have that sense, or someone say that you were resembled them or some way. And then I think really after those 3.5 years, whatever it was, 3 years around that time when that happened, then there was this sense of, I think the Lord was allowing, now it's time to show you my real love, And my real love is not just for the Peters and the James and the Johns of this world, but I need to let you sense, make you aware that my love was for Pilate and Herod, and the Pharisees and Judas and all those people on the darker side. And they allowed me to go through this feeling of what it would be like to be them. And that sense of shame that we would have in the world today if someone knew your family or your community or something, that's the type of person that you were, and people were, you were resembling them in your community. And you see, the thing was that a lot of people, that's what happens. A lot of people judge us based on, sometimes it's based on their own, they're referring to things within themselves when they're judging their own darkness, which they hate. And therefore they begin to hate. But they hate themselves and they hate their own darkness. They're going to certainly hate the other people they see that darkness in, that resembles them or resembles people that they've hated or have done something to them. So they project that onto others. And the point with the Lord is that to really get to become the true disciple, you need to go through that test where the Lord allows that profound darkness, where you become like the Herod, the evil people, the Judases, and the fear and the terror of where you believe they may be. And to think that you could go there as well, or someone else could go there, that any of us could go there, members of my family, members of my friends, and this is what I learned was why, I used to wonder, why is it each time we read these, why is it you read these times of these wee visionaries that you see, the visionaries from Fatima, Medjugorje, Garabandal, Caballo, places that they've seen great evil. Fatima, the church passed it. It tells that the message was that they were shown a vision of hell. And they were supposed to say, if our Blessed Mother never hadn't told us beforehand that we were going to heaven, we would have died of fright. Why would you allow someone so young to go through something like that? Unless there was something in it, unless there was something to gain from it, that God could gain a greater good, draw a greater good from it for them and for others. And that's where the darkness I went through. That's what he was doing. But at the time, you're like those children. The fear and the terror is unbelievable. But the point is that terror, that darkness, cannot overcome the light. And no matter how dark it seems, always believe that light will overcome again. That light will come back. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And I remember being prayed with someone just before it happened. It all happened, and I remember some place we were at, some charismatic, but it could have been a Youth 2000 retreat somewhere, and there were some very gifted people there with gift of prophecy and laying hands on you and being able to give you a message of knowledge and that from the Lord. And whoever that was spot on, because they says to me, I see you're going to go in through a dark tunnel, a very dark tunnel, but you will come through it in the end, and you will bring many with you. You will bring many into the light because of it, including yourself. The Lord will bring you and you'll help many because of that darkness. Now, we don't know how that works. God works in his own way through all of us. It doesn't make you anything, in a way special, as in you can be especially help someone, that's the greatest thing in the world. If you can be of help to someone through your own, and I believe you can do that when you offer that up through the mystical body of Christ. St. Paul talked about in the scriptures. St. Paul talks about the body making up for what is lacking. In the body we can make up for what's lacking. So there's certain people nowadays in a modern world that maybe Jesus wasn't doing, or the apostle wasn't doing in that old time. We could be making up for what's lacking in this world, and our own pains and sufferings and trials of faith can be offered up to God through his mystical body to be channels and to allow God's grace, to work through you and help other people. And especially today, that if you thought for a moment your prayers and your offerings of what you're going through could help, which God does 100% by his graces, and the merits of the saints, also helps people. That if they're sitting in some place, in a dark place, and they maybe want to take their life, they're despairing, and they don't see any way out of it, they don't see any light or know of any light, they no faith to believe that, that God's mercy will overcome this. His love will be there again, it's like the morning watchman. The dawn will come. The darkest time is before the dawn. And but as Jesus or Pope John Paul talked about the morning watchmen, he says the morning watchmen are those who have come through the darkness and met the risen Christ. And I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly, to go through what I went through and then meet the risen Christ afterwards, that light and the spirit and the sense of that Easter grace that the apostles were given, that fire that overcome all their fear and fear of death and fear of justice of God for what they done in Jesus. And and Peter, look at St. Peter, who I'm sure had to live with that for a long time, but 3 times Jesus asked him, Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? And I love you, Lord. That's what he was waiting for. Peter loved him, and Peter had to see it for himself. Peter had to say it himself that he loved the Lord. Everything he done for love of the Lord. And he had to recognize that himself. And that's what we need to do at times. We need to recognize for ourselves, do I love the Lord? And what am I doing for him? What am I doing for my Christianity today? What am I doing for my neighbour? Now, we can all point fingers and say, he never done much for that neighbour, or she never done. We can all do that, and that's where this judgment comes in again, as it says in part 1 or 2. This judgment of, good Catholics, Christians, whatever you want to call yourselves today, if we are pointing fingers at each other, if we're pointing fingers, it's putting people off. We're no doing God any favours by pointing fingers at each other and calling each other, and you're doing it, and she's a hypocrite, and he's an ultra real hugger, and it's not attracting very many other people, because they see the disunity there, and the gossip and the judgment and the character assassination that's there. It's not very attractive. And the Lord himself is the most attractive attraction that you will ever get, because he's what we're created. We're created for him. St. Augustine says that we're restless, Lord, until we rest in you. We'll never be fully at rest and at peace in this world until we meet God. And that's just the way things are. There's a piece of us missing until we meet him on the other side. And then, then that's where the perfection in heaven is. But on this side we're tested. On this side we got, it's a hostile world we're to live in. And it is a hostile world. And that's why Jesus gave us everything. that we need for the journey. We as Catholics, we the 7 sacraments. That to me keeps me. What happens in the church with its ministers and its failed and sinful clergy and lay people like myself, that's neither here nor there. We're all going to be, from day one, people are going to fail and sin and fall along the way. That's inevitable. But there's compassion, there's forgiveness, there's strength in the Eucharist, there's strength. Go back to confessions. There's plenary indulgences, there's Divine Mercy Sunday, where you look a new baptism, where you can look a tabula rasa, clean slate again. In life, the Lord's always given us a chance. Get back up again. And he'll do whatever you have done in life, he'll draw something great from it. He draws whatever evil's done, he draws good, a greater good from it. Where sin abounds, mercy abounds all the more. A great line of scripture coming up in the Passion and Easter. Oh happy fault, oh necessary sin, which gained for us so great a Redeemer. So there's a happy fault. If we never fell in the first place, we would never have knew the mercy of God. That's what I learned. If I never fell in the first place, if I never went into the darkness, depth that I went to, I would never have knew his darkest or deepest light. I would never have known his deepest love unless I was at the darkest, most profound separation from him, to feel that he was even there. He was even there with me at that time. And that those fears and terrors turned to a outpouring of the love of God. An absolute outpouring. My heart was filled with the love of God. And all those things in the past, things that had held, and my own sinfulness, my own hardness of heart, and my own judgments, and an extreme judgment, they were all washed clean by his love, and proved to me that I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have loved you with an everlasting love, Martin. Therefore my love for you is forever. It's unchanging, it's unconditional, it's a love that's always there, never changing. My love for you will never change. It's just the same. So I don't want to go on, because I know the longer the videos at times, sometimes even I get, oh dear goodness, I'll have to turn this video off and watch it again. So I maybe come back and do another, because this is it's a great topic when it comes to living a Christian life, and it's very, very, today, I remember, God rest him, Dom Angus would have says to me, he says, what's up today, Martin? He says, too many Christians, he says, and no cross. And, and our Lord did say, didn't you know that the Christ would have to suffer before he would be rising his glory? So anyone who thinks that there's no suffering in this life, and for a Christian to go through darkness and get tormented by the devil and go through all those things and see what he's like as well, and get a piece of him, and people say there's something wrong with it. No! You go and read the lives of the saints. They went through all of that. And they realised what they were up against. They realised just how hostile this world and the spiritual world really is, and therefore how we need so much those 7 sacraments. We need the baptism to claim the Abba Father, the adopted sons and daughters of God. We need our confirmation, that strength to battle against the forces of evil and defend the faith. And we need the reconciliation or confessions to be able to go when we fall, and go to that priest who keeps that to his death, never reveals that to whatever. So the Lord knows that there's some skeletons in our closets. All of us have. And we can go to these priests in a confessional. And if you want to go into the confessional, the priest can't even see you. And as long as you're getting that released sin, bring what's in the darkness into the light and allow God's light in, and do you see what he can do in his compassion and love? You're never going to sense that compassion and love. You're never going to get that if it's still in the dark. Then the Eucharist, the Mass, the power, the strength of the whole, it encapsulates the whole life of Jesus in the Mass. The whole life of Jesus. The Scriptures, you got the liturgy of the Word. You got the Eucharist, Jesus himself coming to you in the Eucharist. Everything there, the Last Supper and the resurrection and everything. Book of Revelation. Go and read the Book of Revelations. And see, people go and tell us all these things about the future Revelation. Go and look at Revelations and go to a Catholic Mass. And you'll see. You'll see all the, go and just try it yourself. I'll not say anymore. I'll say it in another video. The Eucharist way, the marriage, the sacrament of marriage. The sacrament of marriage is a sacrament, two people that can make saints out of each other. That person, when you're married, that person's going to make a saint out of me. I'm going to make a saint out of that person. That we then, because that person becomes Christ-like to me. Then when I go on and meet Christ, if I'm living and loving that person that he has placed there with me, if I'm loving them the way I love Christ, then I'll be meeting Christ and be loving him too. The love will be there for him. When I meet him, that same love that I had for my spouse, not my spouse, but whoever the spouse is, it gives you a greater opportunity to prove that love than just to friends. You have an opportunity to prove your love for each other. And then when you meet God someday, as Jesus says, there is no marriage in heaven. Marriage to him. You're preparing for marriage to him. If people talk about they think they're away for 70 virgins or whatever it is, and it's all about sex and pleasure. Jesus didn't get married. Jesus wasn't that wasn't the be all and end all. This pleasure. It was only partly to say this is something of what it's like. That great pleasure there and great love was only partly that passionate. Love was only an inkling of what it would be when we met spiritually, met God. It would be mind blowing. Go on, we couldn't handle it. So that's your marriage. And the priesthood. Where would we be? We couldn't bring Jesus onto the altar without the priest. Those whose sins you forgive are forgiven. Priest blesses you and says, go now in peace to love and serve the Lord. Your sins are forgiven. By the ministry of the church. God says that in the gospel. Those whose sins you forgive are forgiven. I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. I've been to confessions. I go to confessions. Every priest knows me. I've been to confessions regularly for 25 years. Still go. Still how to face those priests who know me and still go in and tell them personal sins. Because I always remember it's God who please, no the priest. Please God. At the end of the day, when I go and see him and have all that released, that repented, that's what he asked. Believe, repent and believe the good news. You start thinking of this priest who might not like me. No. I go and tell him too. So I do. He's only a man like me, and the greatest respect to him. He's still only a man, a sinful man too. And some of that's what they're there for, because they can understand us, And again, they come again with the last rites, Dear goodness, and many of us didn't want the priest there, or parents, at their last hours and final hours. Who didn't want the priest there? But we'll speak about those things and the need for them, and the need for the need for these sacraments and the graces from God, because we do live in a very hostile world, and at the moment it's it's just got worse. Things are very difficult, and but as we can see, there's the light is shining in the world too. Amidst this, the light's shining, and the light will always shine. The light will always overcome. And never ever look too far ahead to think, that I'm never going to ever come out of this. You will. The morning will come. The sun will rise, and I mean the SON sun. He will rise more assuredly than the SUN will rise. The SON will rise. Thank you.